English Solutions for Business and Life video. Today we will be looking at Unit 1 from the Global Intermediate book, and we will be focusing on vocabulary. Today, in this unit, we will look at formal and informal speech and different types of English that are spoken. You will see what they are in this video. Also, we will look at collocations for places. This is specific vocabulary that we looked at in this unit, and I'm also going to explain what collocations are. So, let's begin. Firstly, formal and informal speech. Well, what's this? What's formal and informal speech? Here are a few examples for saying hello in different times or to different people. Hiya, hi, good morning, good evening, and hi there. There are other ways to greeting people in English, but these are the ones that we looked at during this unit. Now, there's formal and informal speech. What is each one of these? Well, formal speech is normally used in meetings, presentations. When you're calling a client or you're calling your boss, you would use formal speech. And also when you're speaking with people who have more authority than you, who have more experience than you, or who are older than you, or elders. Now, informal speech, well, most of the time you use informal speech with close friends, close family members, and sometimes younger people when they have less experience than you, or they are closer, like for example children. You would use informal speech with children when you're speaking to a small group. Now, these are important to know the difference between formal and informal speech, because informal speech is everyday speaking. You use informal speech with common people you know, people you commonly talk with, and formal speech, you would use formal speech to speak with someone that you do not want to offend. That's the main objective of formal speech, looking for ways not to offend other people. Now, this is the way this is the explanation. Now, here we have the different ways of saying hello. Which one would you think is a formal or informal? For example, hiya. Hiya, would you say it to your boss, or would you say it to a friend? You would normally say it to a friend. Also, hi there, or hi. Now, it depends mostly on the context or the situation. You could also say these words to your boss if you get along with your boss, but you wouldn't say it to him in a meeting or in front of other people. Why? Because you do not want to offend that person in front of other people. So you would use formal speech. Formal speech is most of the time longer than informal speech. In the case of greetings, you would say, for example, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. You would try to use these words, these greetings, and formal words in formal situations. Now, that was the differences between formal and informal speech. Now, there are different types of English. If you saw already in the book, in the exercises, there are different types of English spoken. It depends on, most of the time, your job. For example, there in this module, or in this unit, we saw medical, legal, scientific, and aviation, or business, and technical English. What is each of these types of English? Well, medical is focused on medicine. If you cannot see it by the word, it would focus on medicine, it would focus on treatments, it would focus on uh, sometimes parts of the body, recuperation, and other words that have to do with health. Who would use medical English? Well, that would be maybe a doctor or a nurse. Legal English has to do with laws. You would think that a lawyer, a judge, or someone who has to do with laws would know legal English, and they would speak legal English in their job. Scientific English, it focuses on scientific terms, science. It could be physics, it could be astronomical science. There are many different types of scientific English, even within the scientific community. But you would think a scientist would understand and talk in scientific English, scientific terms. Now, aviation English, it would talk about planes and other topics that have to do with planes, flying, and machinery, that parts of the plane that have to do with planes, mostly. And who would speak aviation English or this type of English? Well, you would think a pilot would speak this type of English. Even sometimes a stewardess would speak this type of English because they would have to know the terms for planes and this type of vocabulary. Also, we have business English. Maybe you know some business English because you would speak it in your business or in your company. Who would speak business English? Well, maybe a manager or another businessman. They would speak business English and speak in business terms with other people in their job. What about technical English? Technical English would be spoken by maybe an engineer. It has to do with technical things like machines or vocabulary that not other people know, and focuses on that. Machines, engines, and that kind of stuff. Now, those were the different types of English. Maybe you can practice with the exercises in the book. If you have more questions about other types of English, which there are, you could also ask your teacher about it. Now, let's go to the next part, collocations. What are collocations? Well, they are words that often go together. They are different to idioms in the way that, well, you could say each word separated and they would mean something else, but they do not need the other words to have a meaning. Now, these are words that coincidentally are spoken or said more than other combinations of words. They can be adjectives and nouns. They can be nouns and nouns. They can be verbs and nouns. They can be adverbs and nouns. Sorry, that was an adverb and an adjective. They can be verbs and a preposition, or they can be verbs and an adverb. They most of the time or often go together. That doesn't mean that they have to go together. So let's look at a few examples that we saw in this unit. Here we have a few. International airport. As you know, international is a word and airport is another word. They do not have a similar meaning, but these are words that are said often together. An international airport is an airport that has flights from different countries. And ancient architecture. Ancient architecture. Ancient, you know, that's something that from many years ago. Architecture is the types of buildings that are in a certain place. So you would think that ancient architecture is the types of buildings or the way of constructing a building from many years ago. Tourist attractions. Here we have the word tourist, which is a person that visits other places besides their hometown. And attractions is something that attracts people. So that pretty much says the meaning of this word, tourist attractions. They're places that attract tourists. Designer boutiques. A boutique could be a store where you buy things, and a designer boutique would be the same store, but where you would buy things specifically from certain designers, people who made them specifically for a group of people. Now, cultural events. Cultural is something that has to do with culture. That could be the explanation. Now, events would be a special dates or special times, maybe a festival or maybe a party, a gathering, a meeting that is at a specific time in the year, in the month. Now, cultural events would be these types of happenings. It could be a party or a gathering that has to do with culture, in which people would look at something that has to do with culture. They would speak or talk about culture. There are speeches, or maybe they show their culture to other people. Modern architecture is another collocation that we saw in this unit. It would be the opposite of ancient architecture. Modern is something that is quite recent, while ancient is something that is from or can date back to many years ago. So they are opposites. Now, these are the collocations that we saw in this unit. There are obviously more collocations in English, and you will know them by reading, speaking, practicing your English. There are no specific rules for these collocations, but as I already mentioned, they can be 6 different types of collocations in English. Now, that's pretty much it for this video, for this unit. I hope you enjoyed this video and it can help you to better understand the English that we learned in this unit. If you have any more questions, don't forget to ask your teacher about it, and I hope this has helped you. So that's it for this video. See you next time.